Okay, these questions are the types of questions we worked out section 4.2a. They're dealing with finding the vertex of a quadratic and finding the intercepts, the x-intercepts of that quadratic. So first off, we got to find the vertex. And if I was looking at this, this is the standard form of a quadratic, and this number is the vertex. So the vertex is -2. You always flip that sign, heading +2. Now, if I graph this real quickly, -2, +2, there's the vertex. And that's either the lowest point or the highest point. So it's either going to be a smiley face or a frowny face. Since there's a negative out here, that means it's a frowny face, so it's opening downward. So there are 2 x-intercepts here, and I don't know if that's the way it spreads, but that's just the way it is. So to find the x-intercepts, you always set your function equal to 0, because any point that is on the x-intercept has one thing in common. All points on the x-axis have one thing in common. Every point here has a y value of 0. I don't know what the heck, you go out so many, but up or down none. So your y value is always 0. Your output is always 0. That makes f of x equal to 0. Remember that f of x is a fancy way of saying y, and your y value is 0. So I take this thing and set it equal to 0. You always do that to find x-intercepts. You're going to set your equation equal to 0 to find the x-intercepts. That doesn't matter what it is, whatever function it is. If you set equal to 0 and solve, you will find the x-intercept, or the x value of the x-intercept. So to solve this, well, we just want to get x by itself. So move the 2 over. So it becomes a -2. Now this negative out here has got to go. So I divide everything by -1. I guess I can write that out. Or you multiply everything by -1, and it becomes x plus 2 squared equals 2. Now you take the square root to get rid of the power of 2. So you take the square root of this side. Now, you have to take the square root, and your answer is always positive and negative when you take a square root. So plus minus the square root of 2. So what that means is that you have 2 equations in one. X plus 2 equals positive square root of 2, and x plus 2 equals the negative square root of 2, because there are 2 intercepts. So you get 2 answers, and that's what plus minus means. So if you take the square root, you always get a positive and a negative. The reason why is, if you took the square root of 4, the square root of 4 is 2, because 2 times 2 is 4. But it's also -2, because -2 times -2 is 4. So there's actually 2 answers when you take a square root. So anyways, you subtract off the 2. So x equals -2 plus the square root of 2. Subtract off the 2 again. X equals -2 minus the square root of 2. Okay? Let's try another one real quick. Here's another one here. So vertex, it would be 1, -2. And if I graph that, 1, -2, and since there's a positive, there's no negative, it's a smiley face, it opens upward. See how there's two x-intercepts. So we take this, set it equal to 0, move your 2 over, take a square root. Now remember, when you take a square root, it's plus minus. So x minus 1 equals square root of 2, and x minus 1 equals a negative square root of 2. So add 1. Add 1. Those are your x values for the x-intercepts. So these are actually supposed to be points. I didn't do it for the last one, but this one should have been 1 plus the square root of 2, comma 0, 1 minus the square root of 2, comma 0. Okay? I'll go through this fast because it's a video. You can always pause it and go back and forth. Let's do one that's a little bit nicer. the vertex of this one would be 3, 4. So if I graph that real quick, over 3, up 4, and it opens upward. Well, it doesn't hit the x-axis. It didn't hit the x-axis, so there's no x-intercepts. So there's no x-intercepts. What would have happened, though, if you did do that? You'd set it equal to 0, and you move that 4 over. Well, now you got to take the square root. But what? You can't take the square root of a negative 4. So you wind up with imaginary numbers, complex numbers, or imaginary numbers, however you want to do it. It doesn't show up here. So there are x-intercepts to this, but they're not real. They're imaginary. So the square root of negative 4, well, we'll talk about that in later sections. So, but that's why there's no intercepts. So in this section, you just say no intercepts.